One of my faves, the author of When Cops Kill. He's a former cop. He is with Blue Line attorney, and he's all over the place. I don't know how he has time to do anything. He's founder of the Blue Line Lawyer, he's just everything. And his name is Lance LoRusso. He's been here 1,000 times. He's back today. And I really want to talk to him about this because I just watched. Hi, Lance, by the way. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I watched the video where all of the black teens converged on, I can't remember where it was. It was Jersey or where it was, Rhode Island, whatever it was. But they attacked in a giant mob, and the cops just kind of curled up like an armadillo and had to defend themselves because if they would have fought back, shot, or done anything, it would have been all about that in this country. We already know that. But that has to have an effect on a human being.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, the effect of that, and I've kind of come to the point of calling it swarming, and we're seeing it with some of these protests. We see it up at Delaney Hall in New Jersey, where an officer will be doing some sort of a function, whatever it happens to be, making an arrest, talking to somebody, trying to get someone out of the roadway, because they apparently don't understand about following the laws of physics and not standing in front of vehicles. And then they get swarmed by people. And what people don't understand, what the general public doesn't understand, is that law enforcement officers recognize that every time there is a crowd gathered, you can have people that have peaceful intentions, and there will be people taking advantage of the crowd, whether it's the distraction or just the number of people, to commit heinous acts. And that has always been true. There's been examples throughout history, and those folks have the ability, the people, the agitators, the people that have criminal intent, have the ability to take advantage of that situation and absolutely ambush a law enforcement officer.
Well, the stress alone of just seeing them coming at you, you're trying to mentally go through all of your options, and then you think of the way the media is going to portray it, and your options get fewer. And your life becomes, I don't know, maybe it flashes before your eyes. It's like your options eliminated. What do? You just have to take it. See, I wouldn't take it. I would get out my ASP. I would have out my taser. I would have out my pepper spray, and I would fight to my last breath.
Well, and part of the problem that you look at, and this is where, people have said this is a new occurrence. In 1989, Justice Rehnquist, in a case called Graham versus Connor, described law enforcement as officers being subjected to circumstances that were tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. And all we're seeing, that's always been true, but all we're seeing now is that immortal words exemplified over and over and over again, whether it's with gatherings of individuals, with crimes that are occurring. And I just don't understand how some of these folks believe it is appropriate to do that to anyone, much less a law enforcement officer. And it's happening to EMTs and firefighters as well. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why HALO laws are so important. And I know that several states have passed them, but why they're so critical.
Explain to people what that is. I mean, police are allowed to fight back. Like the guy that killed Renee Good, he had every right to shoot her. She ran over him with a motor vehicle on purpose. Her wheels were going straight. She turned to hit him, actually hurt him. So he fired some shots, and everybody's still saying, oh, white lives matter unless they're Democrats. I'm like, she tried to kill him.
Well, and it's pretty interesting when you talk about HALO laws, and there's one in Florida that's pretty famous. There's a couple in others in areas of the United States where they've pushed them. We came close to getting one passed in Georgia, and we're going to try again in the next legislative session. But a HALO Act basically places a protective distance around law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, when they're doing their jobs. And what generally has been accepted is about 20 to 21 feet, and it gives an opportunity. People can stand back, they can observe, they can videotape, they can, if they were raised by wolves, they can cheer and taunt and do whatever else they're going to do and cuss and scream and threaten. But they need to stay that distance back so the officers, the EMTs and the firefighters can focus on the task at hand first, and then second, know that they are in some sort of a protected environment.
Yeah, that needs to happen everywhere. And if somebody should step into that halo, the cop has the right to shove them back out of that area. If they don't listen, then they have the right to arrest them. But then the whole swarm jumps on top of the cop. And at that point, I think they should be able to do whatever they have to do to get the people off of them.
Well, we certainly saw that. There's a case called Puente versus City of Phoenix at the Ninth Circuit a couple of years ago that came out, and it had to do with a group of people that were pushing past barricades. And it's a great example because law enforcement can set, the Supreme Court has said, law enforcement can set parameters as to where people can protest. And they basically there's a group of people that were protesting peacefully. There was a group of people that were pushing the fences and picking them up and trying to break through the barricades. And they used pepper ball. They used basically an indirect use of it. So they were spraying the ground. They were hitting the ground, and it was going into the crowd. And the Supreme Court, the Ninth Circuit said that was an appropriate use of force because it was very minimal and it kept people back and prevented an escalation. And that's what, everybody wants to talk about de-escalation, and what they forget is that when people step in the roadway, when they prevent vehicles from lawfully leaving a building, they are escalating a situation. They are creating the problem, and then looking at law enforcement and say, why didn't you handle it differently? Well, the question is, why did they have to handle anything at all?
Mm-hmm. It always cracks me up. Not cracks me up, but it makes me scratch my head when I see, there are 4 people standing there. A cop gets attacked by a guy or woman who's twice their size because, cops come in all colors and sizes. And you see this person come running. You're like, oh, thank God they're going to help the cop. And they pull out their phone, start videotaping. And I don't understand that because I would be in the mix in about 2.0 seconds with my Ruger. I would be in there stopping them from hurting the cop. But what's happened? What's wrong with us?
People want to be the first person on video. They want to be the first person to post it on YouTube. And it's also becoming a change in the narrative. In the book Blue News, I talk about this. It's about law enforcement and media and the intersection of it and all of the informal media sources that are just getting information out, and it promulgates and passes across the internet so quickly. We've actually seen people changing the narrative. Remember in 2020 when buildings were burning, we had professional journalists, standing there saying it's a mostly peaceful protest with a conflagration of a building behind them. I guess Billy Crystal came close in Princess Bride saying they were mostly dead. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous to sit there and look at a protest where people have stopped the lawful exercise of their First Amendment rights and are destroying property. They're firebombing police cars. They're stepping in the roadway. They're blocking ambulances and fire trucks, all in the name of, I'm angry. Well, it's not about you. Society does not revolve around you. Go back into your parents' basement and eat your Cheetos.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny to me, too. There was just a video I saw the other day, and I don't know why they think because they're videotaping somebody that they're somehow going to become famous or that person's life is going to be over, because there was an ICE agent. She said, take off your mask, even though she was wearing one. So he took it off. He goes, you happy now? And she got close and he gave her a shove and she goes, oh, now you're shoving me? He said, get close to me again and I'll shove you again. He didn't even care. It's like he was done. And I think that's what's happening to our police officers right now. We're going to get to the point where they are just done. The women who stand there with the rags around their heads like they're from the Middle East and scream at the black officers how you're against your race, you're a traitor, you're a this, you're a that, and the cop has to stand there and take it. I don't want him to have to stand there and take it. I want him to cuff her or just smack her in the head. So I don't know. I want him to be able to do something. Well, I mean, the problem is that there are pretty even-handed rules about what law enforcement can do, basically set out on the Fourth Amendment. The use of force has to be reasonable. Reasonable search and seizure is the standard for all law enforcement. So there is a certain amount of having to, quote, take the abuse, but that's a different question. I mean, when you start saying to people, well, it's
it's okay and you're just angry for you to go up and scream at any individual. As I said, were you raised by wolves?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your problem? I'm working on a book right now called Serve Others, Live Without Fear, and one of the premises in there is just stop and think about a situation and realize it's not all about you. Very rarely is anything all about you, and if you are so important that you think you can stand in the roadway and block traffic, including the person trying to get to the hospital to visit someone or the ambulance that's trying to get to a call where somebody's having chest pains, it is amazing how you can have that much of an inflated sense of worth.
I don't think there should be anything wrong with just driving over them. Honestly, I don't. I don't believe in taking an innocent life. I don't. But are you innocent if you're blocking me from getting my child to the emergency room who's turning blue and maybe choking on something and I couldn't dislodge it? I will do anything, and I don't care who gets in the way. I'm getting him to the hospital.
Well, I think what we're seeing, and if you look at the individuals, and not disparaging all of them, but some of them are not rushing home to get an application for Mensa in their mailbox.
Yeah,
they are. I wouldn't ask them to do my algebra homework, as a friend of mine likes to say.
Entitled.
The bottom line is these are coordinated efforts. Somebody is training them. Somebody is coordinating them. So this is not somebody who's overcome by emotion. It's coordinated activity. We're seeing that with ICE. The exponential increase of assaults on officers is just inexcusable. And the fact that it is not universally condemned on both sides of the aisle by every politician really tells you what some of these folks are made of.
Why are we putting up with it, Lance? That's where I'm at with this. I mean, if you're in my face and you're close enough to where you're screaming and your spit is hitting my face, you have now committed a crime, in my opinion, because that is an assault, even if it's with your bodily fluid. I mean, that's an assault. I don't want it on me.
In most states it is, and the problem is that law enforcement has to stay true to the mission and try to manage the chaos as best they can. And I mentioned examples where evil individuals, and truly evil individuals, have taken advantage of the fact that there's a crowd gathered. That seems academic to some folks. Some people think it's fiction, but it's not. And I'll give you two examples. One is in Dallas, when multiple people were murdered while law enforcement was providing security for an anti-law enforcement rally, and the other is the Boston bombing and the Boston Marathon bombing. And when you take those situations into account, law enforcement has to think about those contingencies all the time. And that's why they are on such alert when people start swarming them and people start doing things that are completely unlawful and not acting in a manner consistent with the First Amendment.
Yeah, and it comes down to they weren't raised by wolves, they just weren't raised right. They were raised by liberals who think that they are the only thing in the world that matters and that they're going to get their way if they continue to act like this. You'd think they've learned by now that they're not. You would think that.
Well, people have been telling them, it's if your parents told you're the most important person in the world, they were wrong.
I know.
You're not.
It's just a whole thing. All right, we have a couple minutes left. So what's happening to the cops? Actually, of a minute and a half. Are the cops okay, or are they quitting? I mean, are they okay?
We've seen a very big outpouring from the community saying, we're going to protect our cops, we're going to support our cops, showing up in the town halls, saying to the leaders of the cities and the counties, we want you to do everything you can to protect them. And we've seen some of that in people walking back this defund the police movement, which is complete nonsense. So I think that we're seeing a tide turning, and, God bless them, we're still seeing the 21 and 23-year-olds still applying to be law enforcement officers. And the amount of social media and peer pressure they have to not do that is overwhelming, but they still want to serve and they still have good hearts, and we need to be buoyed up by that. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I am too, because I know a lot of young officers who've come on. Some are a little bit too serious, but they're going to learn that people are going to be people no matter how long you're on the force. You're just going to keep running into the same kind of person, and I hope that they understand that most of us support them and want them to be okay, and that they shouldn't have to put up with this kind of stuff. We need laws to stop people from getting in their face and screaming profanities. When I was a kid, if you even flipped off a cop, he would flip his car around and bend your finger over backwards. I mean, they just didn't put up with anything. Now we have them getting spit at and beaten and things. That it just, I don't understand the world I live in. I just don't.
Well, find one in uniform and thank them for what they're doing, and then try to find the best and the brightest that you know in your community and ask them to be part of public safety, because Lord knows we need them.
Yeah. My grandson wants to be a police chaplain, so I'm trying.
Awesome.
Yeah. Lance LoRusso, When Cops Kill is the name of his book. You said you have another one coming out?
Yep, we have another one coming out in September. It's called Serve Others, Live Without Fear, and more on that on BlueLineLawyer.com. And, of course, it'll always be available on Amazon, because everything's available on Amazon.
Yeah. It's just they won't be able to change your phone number for you for 8 hours, so just create a new account. Lance LoRusso is the guest this morning, and I appreciate you, Lance. Always have, always will. Hope to meet you one day.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.